All right, guys, we're here. We are here. You want to know what's crazy? Okay, we got a couple crazy things going on. First off, it's crazy because we're actually on time. Guys, when can you remember me being on time for one of these periscopes? I'm usually like 5 to 15. I think I've even been like 30 minutes late for one of these before. So, you know, you never know what to expect. You never know what to expect. Maybe one of these days that'll become consistent. We also got um, a little bit of stormy weather going on out here. So, as you can see here, just had a thunderstorm move through, but there is probably going to be some other waves. So, but I'm hoping we can thread the needle here. I was thinking about canceling, but not doing it. We're here. We're doing the periscope. It's been too long. So first off, right, the wine. We got to talk about the wine. All right. Wow, this thunder. All right, so this is an Aglianico del Vulture. Now, Aglianico del Vulture is. I love this wine. I love this wine. I'm a little balanced, or biased rather, unbalanced. I'm a little biased because my Italian family, of which I apparently share very little DNA, but my Italian family, my mom's family, is from Basilicata, Italy, which is exactly where Aglianico del Volturia. So Aglianico del Volturi, Basilicata, this is like the arch. So if you're looking at the heel of Italy, let's think maybe they have a map. All right, so you can see it right here. So we're talking right there. And it's not a very, wealthy, nice part of Italy. It's like a lot of southern Italy. It's relatively impoverished, especially back when all the immigrants left from there. But referring to this wine itself, so this is considered to be one of the grand wines of Italy, and one of the only ones that you will find in southern Italy, certainly not this far south. Basilicata is not known for any sort of special wine except for this one, and this grows on a mountain. I think actually, I don't know if the mountain is called Vulture or something like that, but it's grown on a volcano. I think a dormant volcano. So kind of in some sense, it's got that volcanic situation going on. But this is a really, really high level of Aglianico. It is really, really good. The only other place that compares to it is Torazzi, which is in Campania, also southern Italy, but not so impoverished. So we're talking closer to Naples with that. This is a big wine. But there's because of the altitude that you get on it, the alcohol percentages you see is nothing pretty crazy. I mean, you could get some really hefty wines from that. So let's see here. Oh man, there's just so much flavor. There is so much flavor in this. This is going to be a high recommendation for me, for you guys who like to grab the wine. There's so many different like herbs. I actually got to be a little bit more specific here. Let me do like a real. All right, so we got graphite. This comes from the well, graphite, which you usually will get with a Cabernet Sauvignon, which is why I paused for a second. But it's definitely very, very clear, and this is a good flavor in wine. It's really exciting and interesting. I think it has to do. I think what I'm getting here is some of the oak that's involving itself, even though oak isn't always so subtle with that. Because sometimes oak can be very big in vanilla. You're not getting a lot of vanilla with this. But you're getting this woodiness. It's like you're chewing on a pencil. Um, Really, really bright red cherries. I got to go in one more time, guys, because I thought I was just gonna have like one glass on this, but mm-hmm. You hear that thunder? It's kind of foreboding. Bright cherries, bright strawberries. Um, Getting like a little bit of a. I don't know how to put this. It's kind of like a some sort of like leaves and stuff like that. Oh, I'll show the brand one more time. This is it's a very special kind of Aglianico. Okay, this is very different from Aglianico d'Abruzzo. And guys, I have to say, like Aglianico del Volture, there's a lot of ones that you can get. Um, they're I haven't had like a bad one, but this one is really good. It's really good, and it's got another 10 years to age. So, all right, without spending too much time on the line here, let's get into business because it's been a while. Some of you guys saw my news. I've been focusing on family. I've been taking a little bit of a break, but big stuff ahead for us on a grander scale. Okay, so Trump's speech, Mount Rushmore. Thanks, Bob. Thanks, Bob. Trump's speech on Mount Rushmore, July 3rd, July 4th. Big energy the evening of July 3rd to July 4th. Big energy all weekends. That night, almost no one I know slept, especially if they have a lot of they have like a lot of spiritual awareness and grounding. You could just feel it. It was like I was up immediately. I walked almost 9 miles on the beach. Vivid dreams all weekend. But remember, guys, we're in the midst of some very esoteric phenomena here. So we had the lunar eclipse a couple weeks before the solstice. And then on the solstice, we had a solar eclipse. And now we had a lunar eclipse just the other day. And so that was the sort of budding energy for this. And I can tell you that this is the start of a counteroffensive. Counteroffensive. And actually, I would not just call it simply a counteroffensive after the sort of stuck positions that we've seen after the other offensive, the enemy's offensive stalled. We're talking about a flanking maneuver here. Okay, I'm going to explain to you exactly what this means. So I've used the analogy before about this being like the Battle of the Bulge. Like you have you have your enemies basically boxed into they're in a very precarious position. They're surrounded, and so they make one last ditch effort. They throw all their resources behind it at a particular moment, and they get momentum and they push things forward. But they stall. The offensive stalls, and the position stagnates. They stop being able to move forward, and then what they're trying to do is maintain their position. But their position has actually exposed them to now being flanked and pushed back completely, and also they're depleted of resources. And so when I say all this stuff, what happened in the last couple of days? Two big things happened in the last couple of days. Okay, that we want to talk about, and they're very, very connected. What are the two big things that happened? Put it in the comments. Let's hear them. Two big things that happened the last couple of days. Maxwell West arrested. Number one, Glisane, I'm going to say her name wrong. Maxwell arrested. What else? What else happened? Kanye. Exactly. Kanye West running for president. Now, some people, when they heard Kanye running for president, they were like, "Oh, this is like, why is he doing this? This is bad. This is clownish. This is ridiculous." Why would Kanye run for president in 2020? Kanye's not going to win the presidency. I mean, there's a 0% chance he'll win the presidency. Yeah, well, you could say he's taking Biden votes. Exactly. And that's the point. He's going to run. He's going to run throughout the entire thing, and he's going to take Biden votes. And then Trump gets a landslide because it's split. If in a lot of states, especially upper Midwest, former industrialized region, if you have, I think the Democrats' margin there, if you were to peel away even like 5 to 10% of the black vote, then they lose the state. So Kanye coming in there, I mean, Kanye would easily get half the black vote. Right? So that it would completely eliminate the Democrats' coalition everywhere except for some of the new immigrant states, maybe like in the Southwest. California probably wouldn't change, but everything in the upper Midwest would. Well, just a little poli-sci here. You have two main parties in America, Democrat and Republican, because of the nature of the Electoral College. So because votes are calculated per state, like whatever if you win a state, I think only Maine and Nebraska split by congressional district, but even still, I mean, effectively, like if you win the state, you still get the senators' vote. So the electoral college is basically composed. Each state has their senators, 2 votes for the senators, and 1 for each representative. Okay, and so whatever candidate carries that state, those votes go to the electoral college, and the electoral college determines the president. Right. So Trump didn't win the popular vote. He won the electoral college. People said that was a fraud thing, that he shouldn't have won because he won. That's the game. It's like saying, well, I lost the game that we were playing, but the rules should have been different. It's like, it's not how. And also, a lot of those votes were fraud. I'm not even really convinced that Trump didn't win the popular vote. But whatever, that's not really relevant here. I don't want to get off topic. But the point is that the reason there are 2 parties is because the electoral college demands that there be 2 parties. So in Europe, you have coalition governments. Well, in America, you have coalition governments too, but they're really within a party. The coalition is implicit within the party. So you can see that Trump changed the Republican coalition because he pulled a lot of people who were working class, white mostly, but Democrats, but also much more minorities than any other Republican president had to date. So why would someone run third party? Well, you could run third party for a couple of reasons. You could run for attention. You could run as a spoiler, right? Only president who's ever really contended as a third party candidate was Theodore Roosevelt when he ran for president a second time, which would have been his third term because he became president after McKinley was assassinated. But he ran against his protege, Taft, and he ran the Bull Moose Party. Anyone can run. Anyone can run. I mean, now, what party are you running under? Will anyone really vote for you? Will you make any difference? I mean, most people who want to get attention are going to run within a party. Kanye has enough money that he probably won't. Now, so here's the 2 things. So we say Kanye's running for president. The most overt way to think of it is that Kanye wants to, he's got an ego, and Kanye wants to run for president, and maybe this is a way that he can destroy. Yeah, he may not even be on the ballot in most states, right? This is a good point. So there's a logistical issues, which everyone underestimates who hears this. They have no idea how logistically difficult it is to get yourself registered so you can actually be voted for. You can run for president, but no one can vote for you, right? So Kanye runs for president, and maybe he takes some things away from Trump, takes some votes away from Trump, but he takes more away from Biden. So it's obviously positive for Trump, right? It's obviously positive for Trump. I mean, there are people on Twitter are probably going to say that Kanye is now going to beat Trump because he's the unity candidate. Like, just get off Twitter for a little bit. Get off Twitter for a little bit. Sorry, almost all of the standard red states are never going to vote for Kanye West. Kanye has 0 chance to victory. So why would he do that? Now, this is the question. Why would he do it? If we're talking from a perspective of Kanye just doing things for Trump, then it would make sense that Kanye maybe just he's egotistical, and he goes in and he's this buffoon, Trump-like buffoon, right? So he goes in and he spoils things for the Democrats, and Trump wins a landslide, and Trump looks great. But how does Kanye look if he does that? Kanye looks like the person who put Trump back in power to some people on the left. And also, it looks very inconsistent because just a couple months ago, you had Kanye. Kanye did not, I never heard anything about Kanye denouncing Trump. But what we all saw was Kanye, against massive pressure, total alienation from his class, social class, and ethnic class for that matter, ethnic group. He went to Trump, and this is back in the fall, I believe. Fall. It was last year, maybe. It could have, honestly. I have no idea about time right now. I think it was probably early 2019. I think it was probably like spring 2019, if I can remember. I have to remember things. Like, I couldn't live in a climate like California where the seasons are the same. Like, I have to live in a place where there's seasons because that's how I keep track of time. So I can remember watching the news about Kanye's press conference. I remember where I was when it happened, and if I remember what the plants look like, then I can approximate what time of year it was, and that's how I figure it out. So I wouldn't say violently, but it is thundering, and there's still some drizzling going on here. Hopefully we'll thread the needle. There's more storms coming later. Anyway, so Kanye goes to the Oval Office with Trump, and he wears a "Make America Great Again" hat, I love you. I love you so much. You are like a brother to me. He goes and he hugs him. He says, I don't care who hates this. I love you. Right? Okay. So you have this person. Then he goes and runs for president. And he's going to have to say tons and tons of negative things about Trump, right, in the race, if he's going to be taken somewhat seriously as a intermediary candidate or whatever. He's not going to win the election, though. He wins Trump the election. But then it's kind of like, what does Kanye get out of this? Does Kanye get any sort of political future out of this? No, he doesn't. Because most Republicans, most white people in America are going to look at Kanye as this person who, they may have been like, oh, he spoiled things and they may understand that he helped Trump win the election, but it's not going to endear him to them because he's still going to be like this person who was talking against Trump. But what happens if Kanye goes in and Kanye runs for president and Kanye, so he runs for president and give me 1 second. Let me try something. All right. I put myself on data, so we'll see if this is a bit better. So is it better? Do we have a better reception than before? Because I'm near the I should be. I mean, I've been finding Wi-Fi is getting worse and worse these days versus data. I don't know if anybody else has seen that happen. How's reception's good, guys? Reception's good. Someone just drop a comment telling me it's much better. Okay, cool. So cool. So, but if Kanye were to run for president now, just to get attention to himself, maybe even to be allowed into a debate, but simply to allow the media is going to pay attention to Kanye West running for president. And what if Kanye West's the gist of everything he's saying is talking about unity between races and to talk about all of the different corruption and ways that this criminal cabal, which is mostly at this juncture represented in the left in America, or aspects of the left, the organized political left in America, that they have been actually screwing over Black Americans. And what if that's his big thing? And his big thing is that actually, and he just focuses all of his attention on talking about that the Democratic Party has basically disenfranchised Black people in America and basically uses them as auto votes while they keep the community in a worse place. What if he does that? This is why I call this a flanking maneuver, because the left has pretty much staked their existence on the old card of trying to manipulate Black people to feel like victims against white people and to trigger their generational trauma, which is based on legitimate things, but doesn't help them to heal the trauma. They use that trauma and they perpetuate that trauma so that they are able to continue to capitalize off of it and use the division between individuals to create more hate, which they feed off on an energetic level, right? 4D, they feed off of that on an energetic level, but also it just keeps the focus away from them. Yeah, well, I mean, Biden's comments on the Black vote, Biden is, notice that all this stuff came out immediately after Biden said that, right? You guys remember that all the riots started immediately after Biden started saying, you're not Black if you don't vote for me, right? Like, though, Biden is really losing it. I mean, I saw a video the other day where Biden talking about how I'm Biden's husband. It's like, I don't know. My wife could not stop laughing when I showed her that video. It also looks, he was dressed in something very ridiculous. Really loving this wine. But, well, yeah, I don't even know how he's going to manage in the debates. But I don't think they're going to drop him out because I don't know. I don't know how they're going to do it. But we'll have plenty of time to talk about the debates when that comes up. But just for right now, okay, this is a flanking maneuver because there's nothing they can do to stop Kanye from running for president. And there's nothing stopping, hey, Gigi, and there's nothing stopping Kanye from laying it all out on the table. Why I think he'll drop out, okay? Because Kanye being in the race is only good for Trump. But what's good for Kanye is to be in the race, destroy the Democrats' position with blacks and frankly some upper middle class whites, and then pull out and endorse Trump. Because what happens then is that now, if he wants to run in 2024, you better believe that white people in middle America are going to vote for Kanye West, because they're going to remember that Kanye West broke that stranglehold, and they're going to see him as a unity candidate. They're not going to see him as somebody who's out there for his own gain. Kanye, like, African Americans are 13% of the US population. Kanye has a hard ceiling of 20%, 25% of the popular vote if he doesn't bring in people from Trump's coalition. Trump needs Kanye, but if Kanye wants to have a future in politics, he needs Trump's coalition more. And so that is what's going to happen. I bet Kanye, but I think if it's cutting out, it's because of the storm. The rain's starting to pick up. Let me see. Can you guys hear me? I'm going to try the Wi-Fi. 1 second. Now, I'm back on Wi-Fi. How's it now? How is it now? All right, cool. Cool. All right. We're getting close, right? We're getting close on target. We're getting on target. All right. Where were we? We were talking about with Black Lives Matter and what's happening next, right? Okay. And how that connects with Maxwell. So, people like to talk about Ghislaine Maxwell being this madame who procured clients for Jeffrey Epstein, etc. Primarily, Ghislaine Maxwell was an intelligence agent. Basically, by all accounts, a triple agent. You heard about the double agent, but a triple agent, understand correctly, Israel, the UK, and Russia. And he was on. In reality, he was probably on the side of the Rothschilds, who were playing with between all three governments. But the point here is that this is a very deep intel family, and the whole thing about setting up these individuals with people only to blackmail them, that's intelligence operation, right? That's an intelligence operation. So on a fundamental level, the big thing about the Maxwells, and Ghislaine in particular, is that she has access to all of that stuff going on. And by all accounts, she has a dead man switch. Now, maybe Epstein allegedly had one too. The timing is pretty interesting here because there's a couple things that we've been seeing. Okay, what have we been seeing? What have we been seeing recently? Well, we have seen that with there was the New York district, the U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York, right? Manhattan DA which is where the Wiener laptop went to, by the way. He was bar and he refused to do that, which is unheard of. You never do that. Like it's you because you be forced to leave, and he refused to leave till like another court had to basically go and rule that he had to be removed from the position. It bought him like a week or two. You only do that unless you're in a that once he was removed, we suddenly have Ghislaine Maxwell, who we were told, which there's no extradition treaty. Turns out she was in New Hampshire. I've also seen some interesting things that she may have been staying in Doylestown, PA, and going to Beverly Hills with one of the women from Beverly Hills Housewives. I don't know about that. But the point is, she was in the United States the entire time. Okay, so they knew where she was. The arrest didn't happen until recently. By the way, you saw she's got COVID, right? She's got COVID. It's some spring energy with that kind of stuff, right? People disappear. So this happens, and at the same time that this happens, when it comes to Black Lives Matter, we know that Open Society's foundation, George Soros, we know that. We know that it's AstroTurf. What are some other things that we learned, though? We've been learning that it's being Antifa in BLM are being funded and being armed by other countries like Trump designating the Iranian Revolutionary Guards a terrorist organization. People were like, oh, what does that do? Doesn't make any difference. But the thing is, if these people are being funded by that group, then they are also part of this terrorist organization. And from when we like questions have been asked to the district attorneys who are working on these various investigations for the Trump administration, it's like, why hasn't anything come out yet? What's going on? It's like, we are building a very, very tight case, is what one guy in particular said. I can't recall his name. We are building a very tight case. We just confiscated thousands of assault weapons that came from China, somewhere in the southern U.S., I can't recall, but they were going to Black Lives Matter. I mean, basically what you have here is the cabal operating out of China and Iran, which is what they've been doing, because the two groups are connected. The countries and the groups are connected. That this stuff isn't simply like, it's the big financiers who have bankrolled it, and you see woke capital going behind it, blah, blah, blah. But it's also, and this is important for normies to understand, because when you talk about like George Soros's foundation is funding this, it can seem like, oh, well, now you're being conspiratorial, even though it's like obvious for anybody who wants to even look at it. You can find that information really quickly and easily. But when you say China is funding this, well, people are like, well, like normies are going to think, well, China's a geopolitical threat. China's a rival. And so they'll take it more seriously. And then eventually you can make the connections. And when they find out it roots back to their own party, there's going to be like some, oh shit. But the point here is that it's all happening at the same time. You saw the Georgia Police Department got burned down recently. Okay, Carlos Osweda, who was, you may have known him as Thomas Victor. He deactivated, came back. I think his real name is actually Carlos because he mentioned he was Mexican. He's an interesting guy. I think he's got a couple screws loose, but he's certainly smart, certainly very intelligent and perceptive on certain things. Maybe almost a little bit of tunnel vision, but it doesn't matter. I mean, like everybody has their errors in judgment that they can make. He's quite right about this. I mean, you see a lot of these departments who are getting vandalized and all this crime that's being committed. We talked about in previous this stuff to occur. Well, you're going to allow it to occur because it gives them enough rope to hang themselves, really alienates normies against them. But more than that, it gives you a case file against them to use in court. So if you can make the connections of the money and you can make the connections of the weapons, and let's be honest here, if you can make the connections with the people, Loki Julianus, right? I've talked about Loki before. Loki found out that in Chaz, right, their little anarchist commune, which is now being rolled up in Seattle because it had a death rate at 600 times that of the United States. What Loki found out was that the private security guards who were at Chaz were mercenaries, socialist mercenaries, internationalist socialists, right? Who were working with the YPG, the Kurdish Socialist Liberation Group that exists in northern Syria, northeastern, and I think northwestern. There's a pocket in northwestern Syria. In Syria, okay? They were there as mercenaries. Now, who do you think has contacted those kind of things? Bap talked about this a bit in his last Periscope, so I won't go into it too much. But who do you think has access to those individuals? I mean, this is CIA. It's very, very clearly the same groups using the same people. It's not organic. It's not organic. And Maxwell is going to be a big piece in the revelation of this stuff because she's got the goods. Okay? From what I've heard, she's got more than Epstein ever had. And maybe Epstein's dead, maybe he's not. I don't know. But don't you worry. Don't you guys worry about what's happening. So let's talk just a little bit here about big picture and what to expect the next couple of months. Because things are heating up now. I think that we're going to see a little bit of a lull in August. But guys, the fall is going to be vicious. Okay? It's going to be a very, very vicious period. I think you're going to see they're going to throw everything they have, every false flag they can get, because everybody who's in it, everybody who's within that stuff and can't get out, can't plead some sort of amnesty because maybe they think that they're a victim, it is going to blow up, guys. There's going to be the final release this fall, so brace up and take that downtime in August, because when September and October hits, it's going to get lit, and it's not going to start to cool off until December. After the election, there's going to be an enormous amount of processing for people. And I recommend that you guys be strong in your convictions with your family and friends. You be strong in your convictions with them. You hold up your boundaries, but also remember that people are really being manipulated. I mean, you might have younger relatives or friends who have just bought into a lot of the propaganda because they're empathetic people, because they actually care about other people, right? They care about Black Lives Matter because they don't like the idea of a unarmed black guy getting killed by a cop. They don't like the idea of a group of people being discriminated against systematically. They don't like that. It doesn't matter if the facts around it are true. Their emotional intention for a lot of them is pure, that they are actually there and they're upset because they feel like, I mean, they have their personal reasons maybe for the fact that it gives them a place in the world, but they're also doing it because they really don't like the injustice. Like they're empathetic. And it's, what is it, the Don Quixote thing of jousting with windmills, right? I mean, you could be, that may not be a good analogy, but like you can be attacking something that doesn't exist, a mirage, but the intention is the same. And the idea is not to attack those people as much as you can. Don't try to attack those people. I was talking about this the other day. When I was 17 years old, I wanted to go to Iraq. I wanted to go out to Iraq for two reasons. Because I love the country, I love America, patriotic, felt some elements of guilt that, I should be, if I believed in the war, I should be fighting it. And also this sense, personal reason at the time, I didn't feel like I had much of a sense of meaning and value in my life. I think that there was probably some elements of like that bordered on suicidal thought, because the worse things got, the more I wanted to go there. So there's always a psychological foundation for where this stuff can dig its teeth into. But I wanted to go to Iraq because I cared about America and I wanted to believe I was patriotic. I wanted to do it. And I would have enlisted. I mean, I really would have enlisted. I wouldn't even gone officer, which, I mean, I hate to brag, but Like, I had the brains to be an officer, but I just wanted to enlist. I really just wanted to go and be part of something that felt like I was making a difference. And if I got killed, I'd die, making my life matter, right? The war was a lie, though. The war was a lie. And I was too young to understand that at the time, that the war was a lie. And it was my mom having to basically yell at recruiters whenever they called the house and would hide. She'd answer the phone before I could get to it and would hang up and wouldn't, she stopped me from being able to join it. And I don't know that her intention was correct, but I'm happy she did it because I was manipulated. And that's what the cabal did. They manipulated the right all throughout the 2000s. You care about the country, you care about troops, you got to go deploy, you got to go fight, you got to go die, you got to go kill people in the Middle East. And now they did to the left, right? They did to the left now. And so have empathy for them because they are coming at this stuff. I mean, I have so many friends who are on the left. I have family members, like they're not bad people. There are the really like nasty things that you see, like crazy people doing, agitators. They have a lot of hate in their heart, no doubt. But the average person who's supporting these things, they're doing it because they think that they're doing the right thing. So we're gonna have to come together at the end of all this, and we gotta all be mature. So, all right, few last little things. Oh yeah, I meant to say this just to kind of emphasize the NYPD connection, the New York District Attorney Maxwell connection. Part of her convoy, the majority of her convoy actually was NYPD. So that's how you know that there's a connection to that district. Maybe she'll try, but I don't think so. I think at this point you don't have any cards to really lie. So let's see what else here. Blah blah blah. I covered most of this. A couple little things here. Heard some stuff recently about China producing pretty much the entire world's vaccines. That could be an interesting thought about, does what's actually going on with vaccines? Because we know that they do stop. We know that they do stop most of the illnesses they cause. Not the flu vaccine, but I mean the other things have disappeared. But we also have some pretty good evidence that they do other fucked up things to people. They put aluminum or mercury in your brain. Fetus cells, all sorts of other animal cells, animal DNA. So maybe part of this is the nature of the vaccines that we have been getting because they're coming out of China. They're being manufactured out of China. Some food for thought. One last thing here I wanted to mention. Oh yeah. You guys who have been around for a while know all about the hydrochloroquine thing that we talked about. Of course, now that they're admitting that Trump was right about this and that hydrochloroquine does act in all the ways that it increased outcomes in hospitals. But they lied about it. They lied about it. Lied about it for months. They even created a fake study and then propagated the fake study to get people to not believe that it worked. Yeah, CNN saying it. Why would they come clean? Well, it makes you wonder what has been going on at CNN. Because remember that a lot of the people who were going to Pedo Island, who were connected with Maxwell, was, what's his face, the CEO of CNN. And I remember the Lancet study. I don't remember the other one. The CEO of CNN, Anderson Cooper, right? There's a lot here. There's a lot here. So we're going to have to wait and see. But to what extent CNN is... maybe these media organizations are going to gradually get infiltrated. It's a good question, though, and I think you have to ask these questions. I don't have a full answer for you yet, but what we do know, maybe it was just the evidence was enough that I don't know. I don't know why they said it. It certainly doesn't look good, but maybe you can't deny it forever, and so you just kind of throw it out there and try to bury it. Different people in the organizations. There are still, guys, remember, there are good people in media organizations. A lot of them have been silenced. They can't speak. Very difficult time trying to tell the truth. Don't look at the organization that everybody in it's bad. There's a lot of people who are staying in it because they're trying to do what they can from the inside. It's also their job, maybe, right? I mean, maybe you became a journalist, you spent your entire life trying to get into journalism, you get a job at CNN, then you see all this crap going on, and then what are you supposed to do? I mean, maybe you don't have the financial luxury of just jumping out. A lot of people who are doing these bad things are doing it out of duress, and we're going to get that sorted out. So all right, so the Dalai Lama. I like this question. I'm gonna answer it as best as I can. There is it's very difficult to see how people like Kim Kardashian, and frankly, as far as I'm concerned, some may disagree, but Grimes, right? Because remember, Elon Musk immediately endorsed Kanye, right? And you could make an argument that the Austin Steinbart faction, actually, you can't even make an argument, like it is a very clear-cut argument, that Austin Steinbart's legitimacy hinges on Elon Musk's legitimacy, right? And Elon has recognized Austin. What I think, and I have to admit to you guys, this is an area, this is the one piece that I don't feel like I have fully figured out right now. Because there's a little bit, what it seems like to me is that there's a group, there's a group that has been fighting against the cabal forever, okay? They are the White Hats, the Alliance. They have been fighting against the cabal since forever in various stages within the military, within various government organizations. It's been going on ever since they sniffed and they figured out what was happening. You also have a group from within the cabal that has branched off, that has left them, and that is working with the White Hats and the Alliance to take down the rest of the cabal. And I consider them to be more like neutral characters. Like I said, I looked at Grimes and I said, she's a witch, but she's like a blue witch, like a blue magic is like what I said. I don't even know what that means. It's like from Final Fantasy where you had, white magic, black magic, and blue magic, which was like neutral, I guess. It was kind of trickster magic. So, but I think it's actually right. It's like they're neutral characters on a fundamental disposition. I mean, Elon Musk is a techno-humanist, right? You can make an argument about Scott Adams too. I mean, Scott Adams is, these are very logical people. They're not bad people. Someone asked earlier, intellectual dark web. I'd throw them in the category too, right? I wouldn't say that they're necessarily bad people. They may have dabbled in some bad stuff. They may have been exposed to it. They may have gone along with it for some time because they thought that it suited them or it just had to do it. But then they were like, you know what, we don't really like these people anyway, and so we're going to flip. And I think that's what happened. So I think that Kanye, I think that Elon, I think that these people are not like, if you're going to use the Dungeons and Dragons categorization, I would not consider them to be good people. I would consider them to be neutral people who are working with the good side against evil. That's the best I can reconcile it right now. I can tell you guys, though, that you can't accept, a lot of things don't make sense if you start to believe that Elon Musk and Kanye are against Trump and they're part of the cabal. They just don't make sense. Like, you can't make any comprehension of the fact that Trump has done so much stuff with Space Force. Space Force he created Space Force. Space Force is about the future. Space Force is about, frankly, trapping the cabal in the dragnet, like Starlink. And Space Force is Elon Musk's Starlink, basically. And so if you accept that it's like, logically speaking, Trump brings in Space Force, which is Elon Musk's project. Like, there's just no way that you can accept that they're antagonizing to each other unless you accept the premise that, I think anyone on this Periscope has pretty much come to the conclusion isn't true, which is that Trump's this like completely ridiculous buffoon who has no idea what he's doing and everything is just, he's being used by everybody. Like, if you're that hysterical kind of person, then maybe you might think something like that, because that's all of your arguments stem from the fact that you think Trump's a buffoon and everything has to be bad, therefore. So It's not the case. They have to be on the right side, but I do have some questions about their past, and there was a thread that was put out, which was not really good. It wasn't like a great thread, but it brought up some interesting arguments about Musk and his background, and I'm sure that they dabbled, guys. I'm sure that Elon Musk, he may have been in a ritual. Okay, Kanye probably was in a ritual, but they turned away from it. Okay, they turned away from it, and that's what we have to accept. Some would even say that that's Trump. I don't think so personally, but yeah. So I think that covers it. I'll answer some questions if you guys got any questions here. Questions, questions, questions. Oh, I think Candace Owens is genuine in her desire to. I don't want to be mean here. Candace Owens is doing everybody a service. Candace Owens is on the right side of history. She's making an impact. She also understands. She has ambition. She understands what she's doing. She's trying to set herself up for a political career down the line. She's going to be a senator, Candace Owens, right? Maybe president someday in her mind. She's setting herself up for a big political career down the road, and she's making some calculated risks. At the same time, I think that she believes what she's doing, but her ambition shines through here. It shines through. I wonder if that's a really interesting point. Kanye gave up his mom in some sort of ritual. That's interesting. Like my logical mind was going to say no, that's not right, but the fact that it resonated on some certain level. I mean, guys, when you're trying to really understand if things are true or not, you have to pay attention to those sort of pauses. There's like an unconscious pause that you receive, because the reality is when you get to like the more you go higher on things. First, where's the proof to any of this? Like, what are you doing here? I'm not going to block you, but like, just shut the fuck up. Seriously. I'm not going to post links throughout this entire Periscope. This is something people who are following this are interested in having conversations about these things. They're trying to understand what's been occurring. If you are just going to like come in here and make stupid comments, like stop wasting your own time. Like, why would you watch me talk for an hour and be like, where's your sources? Where are your, like, I don't understand the minds of these people. So going back to the Kanye thing, right? Going back to the Kanye thing. When you have a pause like this is a sign that I'm not saying straight up that this is true, but it's usually a sign that a deeper part of yourself has heard a truth. There's a resonance that occurs. There's a resonance that occurs. And I think that there's now that I can start to use my logic based on that resonance, his best album was My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, which was a very, very dark album, very, very dark energy coming out of that. And you could sort of see that there was, and it could just be, maybe it could have been in some kind of healthy processing of pain that he felt. But afterwards, it seems like he got involved with a very dark, terrible woman who broke him apart even further. And so there's certainly something to be said that at the death of his mother, his world became much darker. I think that you can make that point pretty logically. And you just got to pay attention to those pauses, because when you get to a certain level, you're not going to have as much information, and you have to discern with your heart. And that's your heart truth. That's your heart's truth. I heard some stuff about people who their memories were getting worse, and that, you're only going to know things when you need to know them going forward now. I like part of that, because I like the idea of, the fact that there's this inner knowing, which I completely agree with. But yeah, I mean, it's like, at the same time, I don't think we're losing our memory here, right? Be careful with the new age trap of trying to completely transcend the 3D. It's like we still have physical bodies here. We're in a different vibrational energy, but we still have physical bodies. Yeah, Elvis. This is a lot of how this stuff works. This is a lot of how this stuff works. All right, let's. So I've been hearing some. Let me go back. Blah 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 blah. Okay. Does Brexit help the cabal? I've heard mixed things about it. Fundamentally, I've heard mixed things about it because with some of the EU changes, like the cabal likes to have their banking havens. Like you've got Switzerland, Singapore, London, like to have these separate little havens where there's no real outside control. Remember, the city of London itself is under a separate organization. People don't believe this, but it's actually true. Like if you look it up, it's true. The city of London is directly ruled by the Queen. I mean, actually, all of the UK is, but there's like a very, very explicit for the city of London that regular London police force can't go there if dictated otherwise. So you can make an argument that the cabal was good with Brexit because it meant that these sort of stricter money laundering regulations, anti-money laundering regulations that the EU would have been putting on financial institutions would have affected Britain. And so keeping Britain out was a way to protect all that stuff. Same way that nobody makes any stink about Switzerland joining the EU, but they get all the benefits of being in the EU. It's because they can't be part of the law that the masses are going to be a part of. But I mean, fundamentally, I think I hear that argument, but I think it was probably worse for the cabal overall to lose the UK. Because if you're trying to create a global superstate, I mean, especially because you look at who was supporting it. I don't know. It's tough. It's tough, right? Was Boris Johnson good or bad? Like, it's tough to figure out exactly. He's one of those people who's also like in that trickster category. Like, is this guy on the good side or not? But we now know that, we haven't seen the Queen in a long time. We did see Kevin Spacey and Ghislaine Maxwell on the throne in Buckingham Palace. We did see a picture of that, but we haven't seen the Queen in a while, and we haven't seen the seal. So, okay, is the occult always bad? Can it be used for good purposes? Oh, man, what a question. Well, I would not say that it's always bad, but I think that 95% of people getting into it don't have the proper emotional grounding to know what they're getting involved with, and that they're more likely to be used in the situation than use. So the thing about magic, where it's based on like voodoo and things where you're creating power dynamics in the astral over other people, is that there are sacrifices required for doing these things. Right? There's sacrifices required for doing these things. I think that at best you can make an argument that a lot of these practices are maybe neutral. You could maybe make an argument that some of these practices are neutral, but most of them have very, very negative side effects, very dangerous side effects. And there's a reason why, for instance, all the big religions, you can make an argument that they prohibit them because they don't want anyone else to use it. And I think that there's some points there, right, that they would, like a lot of, I guess you could say, neutral or even benevolent pagan rituals and pagan occult practices were eliminated, and women were killed as witches, etc. There were inquisitions. That a lot of that stuff occurred because the church wanted to agglomerate power. But I mean, on the other hand, there's also a lot of evidence to support that when you play with these things, you really bring devil and you bring the demons into your world. And I just really think that most people are not. People want to do it. Usually, people want to get involved with astral channeling and all sorts of magic rituals, either because they have negative intentions or because they have some problem in their life and they're looking for a hack. In those two approaches, like white magic is defensive. White magic is like Aikido. It uses people's negative energy against themselves. It's much more of a ward than it is an offensive mechanism, because when you're in touch with source, you don't need to be using these kind of things. You don't need to be using some sort of ritual to, curse your ex-lover. You don't do that stuff because you forgive them. And by forgiving them, you give yourself more power. Okay? And I think that's the fundamental lesson, for instance, of Christianity, which is why people can get really lost down a lot of these rabbit holes of, should I do this or that? I think they're mostly useful to know from a defensive standpoint, but you can really get yourself wrapped up in some dark stuff if you don't know what you're doing. Greg Hallett, new king. I don't know. DM me about Greg Hallett, because I have no idea. Sometimes I'm like, I've heard the name, but I have no idea who Greg Hallett is. So just DM me about it, because I don't know. Yeah, man, a lot of nightmares. I had some pretty vivid dreams and nightmares the last couple nights. But I felt like in one of them there was a big breakthrough at the same time. I think that there was something. It wasn't just negative stuff. That there was some shadow piece was unlocked in it. So much love from New Jersey. Much love from New Jersey. Why did you think if Hillary got elected we would have had World War III with Russia? Because they've been gearing up for. There's like an old playbook with this. Okay, so there's a couple things. I got this shine on me now. And the sun, I guess, is kind of poking through the clouds. So World War II was basically a war. What happened in World War II? What was the end outcome for World War II? Man, this is so shiny. What was the end outcome for... doesn't matter where I go. What was the end outcome for World War II? End outcome for World War II was that the Germans and the Russians basically destroyed each other, and the British Empire was moved to the United States. Okay, a much more a place that had more resources, that had more of a sustainable basis than the rest of the British Empire. And two other big powers, Germany in particular, were wiped out. Right, basically wiped out as a major force. And a lot of and so when you look at, I'm speaking big picture, by the way. There's tons of evidence based on rhetoric and based on how they responded after Trump and everything, and based on what happened to Russia, which I've talked about before, how Russia was in cabal hands for about 10 years, and then Putin pulled it out of cabal hands. And again, Putin doesn't make Putin good, but it does make him maybe better for Russia, because I've told the story before, right, about how he took it back and exiled or imprisoned or executed billionaires who had raped the country. But the point here is that creating a war between the US and Russia would present an opportunity for a new basis of control that was based on principles that were much better than, let's say, liberty. I hate to sound like a boomer, but liberty-loving Americans, people who actually question authority. You may not think it's enough, and maybe it isn't, but we've fallen a long way. There's no doubt about that. But compare us to China, okay? Communist China is a pretty good place to build up a global superstate. And so you have the United States and Russia. You use your old basis of control to fight against an old enemy, and you get them to wipe each other out, and then China can pick up the pieces, especially as both countries are the two biggest rivals of China, right? Maybe the war would have been also against China. But based on the rhetoric against Russia and the fact that the cabal uses China, it's probably more likely that they meant to have United States get economically and socially depleted through infiltration from China and the bad trade deals, etc. Everything comes together now, doesn't it? When you start to understand Trump's platform, you start to realize how connected it is to what's going on. the deeper levels. Like it made sense on like this level, but then you go deeper and you're like, it made even more sense on this level. And then you go a little bit deeper and you're like, actually, holy shit, this was a linchpin. And it only seemed kind of like good here, but over here it becomes essential. And that was our dependence on trade with China. Because what was happening was basically China taking all of our military and economic base, and they were building that up to basically deplant the United States, and that there was a big plan around this. So it seems likely that China wasn't going to suffer too much from a war. They may have been involved with it, but Russia and the U.S. were supposed to maintain the big brunt, and China was supposed to swoop in at the end and pick up the pieces, maybe, which was like what America did in World War I and World War II. America suffered barely at all from those wars. They actually gained from the wars. World War I and World War II were objectively good for America. Very little loss. After World War II, America had almost 40% of global GDP. And then afterwards, when Europe's GDP was built up, it was built up to be controlled by America. My thought process is that they probably decided that in the long term, America was too difficult to fully subjugate, and that the only thing to do is to destroy it. That's my thought. That's my guess, is that they took it over, and then when their objectives changed, they're like, well, this country won't do. We have to use a country like China, which has a very strong tradition of submission to authority. But we're being very speculative right now. Yeah, Freemasonry, guys. A lot of stuff around the world with that. A lot of these things have been founded from that. The Green Party, Greta Thunberg, climate change, worship occult. Yeah, well, her mother is involved. I mean, she ran Eurovision, and Eurovision. I mean, before I was even woke, I understood that Eurovision was like really bad energy and propaganda. I remember when I was living in London with my fiance at the time, my wife to be, and I mean, they're Europeans, right? They grew up with Eurovision. So we watched it. We had a Eurovision party. And the party was fun, although Poland was robbed big time. If you guys want to see the video, Mi Słowanie, that was the video, is a little bit salacious, but it was objectively much better than the one that won, which turned out later on had 0 votes pretty much at all anywhere. And that was this Austrian transgender singer. No one voted for him, but Eurovision awarded it. It was a propaganda piece. That was in May 2014. Okay, April, May 2014. That's when it really started, right? It was around that time period, 2014, 2015, that we really started to see it in our face. So yeah, Greta Thunberg is complete psyop. I don't really know about, I don't know really, frankly, concern about her. Yep, Flynn family oath on Cameron, great Q proof. Like I said this about Q before. I mean, Q's got to watch out for the group thing. Q's got to watch out for savior worship. But I mean, we're on target with it. We're on target with what we're developing here. What the proofs are coming in, and I think that it's natural for people to want to fall into trying to see, hey, is this proof? Is this a proof? Is this a proof? But even though some of these things are really directed towards people who are working within Q, the comms are not maybe for anons. They're for other things, other people. But yeah, Flynn's getting more into it now. What are some telling signs that white hats are in control and are moving into this changed world? Well, this is a really good question, because you'd have to look at it. It's very difficult right now, I think, for a lot of people to see it, because they see the sort of chaos going on, and they can't see what is going on from behind the chaos. So if you zoom out and you look at bird's eye view at the left and Democratic Party, you see that their position is completely hopeless. They have been brought into a position where they are hysterical, and basically encouraging or justifying people who are burning down American cities, attacking police departments, pulling down statues, asking for basically a complete cultural revolution. Now, you might see that on the surface and think they're winning because they're physically aggressive, but when you look at their actual strategic position, this is not resonating. It's not resonating with the public. It's not. I have talked to them. Many people on the left, if they haven't already left the left altogether, they may still don't like Trump, but really hate, they really hate what's going on. They're looking for some sort of thing that gives them an excuse on a deep level to leave it. I can tell you that energetically. They are looking for it. Trump at the moment is not giving them that because they have been fed a lot of stuff about Trump. But I think that you throw stuff with Kanye in and you throw a bunch of this evidence coming out with Maxwell and Epstein, I think that you can start to see the shift. But there's going to have to be some other thing. And I think that there's a piece that we can't see that's going to come into the picture that's going to vindicate Trump and allow a big release for a lot of people. I don't see what it is yet, but I see the role of it. You know, if you look at Peter Thiel's favorite book, it's Things Hidden from the Foundation of the Earth. And it talks a lot about the idea of scapegoats, right? And the cabal was trying to make Trump into a scapegoat, but Trump is going to successfully make the cabal into the scapegoat that will unify everybody. And so once that occurs, and that's how human nature works, two sides who are opposed to each other need to find a reconciliation, which is why I am third position, right? Third position, not left or right. I'm third position. Third position is the synthesis. Third position, which comes as a result of the scapegoat. I've seen what's been causing this. And because of that, I can drop all sort of back and forth antagonism that, if I'm being honest, of course, I've experienced in the past. Almost everybody has experienced it. Duality is the nature of how things have been here. But we're moving on. I've noticed a lot of girls into occult witchcraft wear crosses and have Christian things on altars. Well, yeah, I mean, I can't speak to specific girls. Sometimes they'll use it in a defamatory way. Sometimes they'll try to channel the power of the object, the symbol. Because remember, the Christianity, a lot of the symbols like the cross have deeper esoteric meanings. A lot of things the cabal uses, these certain symbols. Great one is the swastika, right? I mean, the swastika is an extremely powerful symbol. The Nazis used it because of their understanding of esoterics. They took it and they used it as this powerful icon. We associate it with Nazism, whereas in reality, it's been found all across the world for millennia because it's understanding on an archetypal level. So girls who are into the occult and everything, they might be using these things because of channeling purposes or helps them manifest a spell. Some may even be, trying to practice as positive witches, and they might be using some things, and they might be mostly positive. They might be probably more neutral. Does Cabal have access to Tesla's research? So, from what I understand, that if you take the fact that there are these underground cities and whatnot, that they've actually used it. They don't only have access to it; they've used it. This is the sort of breakaway civilization that Alex Jones talked about on Joe Rogan. In some ways, you can look at it really as a breakaway civilization because there is a whole separate category, whole separate part of the government, international government, that's been living underground and been doing research and underneath Denver. And this is known with Denver Airport. I mean, they admit a lot of these things. But especially that Eastern Rocky Range, like underground there was supposed to be like the new capital after the inevitable surface destruction of the world that could have occurred, right? If some of the plans were acted out and there was nuclear war. So, I mean, how would that have played into the theoretical war between America, Russia, and China? I don't know exactly. I don't know. There's different theories on the details, but we know about these cities. And there's a lot of talk about mag trains and all sorts of free energy technology. Energy's moving forward. What do my dreams really tell you? They usually, I mean, the classic thing is they tell you about unmet needs. Um, Although I did have a dream about my future daughter. My mom had a very similar dream too. So I think sometimes there's other things that are being spoken to. We didn't know about it. We never told each other, but we saw the same girl. So it's pretty cool. Uh, okay, Elvis, real briefly on Nasara. The idea behind Nasara is that all this money that the Cabal, resources that the Cabal has taken, are going to be redistributed to America. There's also theories about how Bush was forced to sign a bill that brought Nasara into existence, and that it was supposed, or maybe it was Clinton was forced to sign the bill, but it was forced to go into existence on 9/11, 2001, and the record of it was supposedly held in the World Trade Center buildings. World Trade Center 7, I think. There's a gold in there as well. But so the idea here was that part of 9/11 was designed to stop the existence of this act coming into effect. Who knows, right? Something like that's going to happen. I think where people with Nasara get off track is when they start to talk about how like everybody's going to get everything that everyone's going to get all this money back and everyone's going to live in harmony. You could give people money and they're not going to, if they don't have their vibration at the right level, they're going to waste it. Like the point is never going to be about just giving free money to people. This is total fantasy. It's total fantasy. It's going to pay off the debt. Like I'm certain we're going to have the national debt paid off. We're going to have a much more fair taxation system and reform. And maybe there's some sort of disbursement that's going to occur. But guys, let's not get carried away here. Okay, let's not get carried away with Nasara. I think that we should all be very happy to simply have a system to get rid of debt and to have a system that's not based on theft, right? Because for a lot of people, they're working for this very 0.0001% who is doing nothing but rape them in the process of taking their money. And then they create more systems that hurt them more. If you understand on a high vibration level, you understand how money can come to you. Like I don't have any money issues at this point because I implicitly started to understand this idea of giving and receiving and not working out of fear, right? And I think that a lot of the success of whatever this Nasara is going to be contingent on that. Oh man, I'm gonna have to close pretty soon because my throat's getting sore. Feminism is definitely a cabal tool. Turn men against to propaganda. If you make people within a family distrust each other, then you break apart a family. Then you can program people. They have so much pain, makes it easy to find ways to fixate for them. But when you have a strong family, they can't do that because family is everything, right? And family is everything. And I think, frankly, it was a little bit easier for Northern Europeans because Northern Europeans have a much more, you look at like Meds, for instance, Mediterraneans tend to have very close-knit families, like extended families. Codependent, I actually think there's a lot of unhealthiness to it, but there's always a pro and a con. And the pro is that there are greater structures that are resistant to outside interference. There's a tribalism that allows more protective barriers. Whereas for like, I forget that Hajnal line people, right? The Hajnal line that separated different parts of Europe, went about midway through Poland and across northern Italy and into most of, this line determined a lot of different family arrangements. And north of the Hajnal line, you had more like the nuclear family, where it was husband, wife, and children. And you had relatives, but they weren't as involved with anything else going on. And so I think these families were easier to break apart because you could break apart a marriage easier because there was less extended family influence. And then you could easily indoctrinate the children, right? So, let's see, blacklist disclosure. I'm not sure what that means exactly. Oh, people who have been blacklisted. I don't know. I think, but I'm not particularly worried about what'll happen long term for me and my account. I'm sure that things are going to go well for me. I'm only somewhat. I'm like gray listed. I haven't been really attacked heavily. I've gotten some attacks, but I'm not enough in the fight. I'm not enough in the fight. It's hard to touch me because I'm not in the fight to the same extent. A lot of the Q accounts that you see get banned are really into the fight. It's easy to find a pretense to eliminate somebody, not just like a 3D pretense, but energetically, you can blast somebody out if they're on a frequency that allows that to occur. It's much more difficult to degrade people who are not involved in negative stuff. If you're elevating people's vibration, it's just harder, and it can sense it. Blah 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 blah. There is no one book and page, no book, Bible, no one God, no one king. What is? No, it's true. There is no one book, but there's a lot of other stuff going on. There's a lot of commonality between different groups across European paganism and globally, different entities that are seen. I didn't see Jordan Peterson's return. Maybe I'll check that out. I haven't read the Book of Ra. The Book of One, Law of One, I've heard of. Maybe it's the same thing, but I haven't read it. I don't think I did check out that channeling video. That's interesting. Braca Goldsmith. All right, I'll screenshot that right now. Let's see here. Statue Disorders, one initiative, but they have... No, they're not going to win the war. Yeah. Yep. Well, I talked a little bit about it. I mean, I'm not an astrologer. You want to talk to Paul Publisher about that. A bunch of other people also are familiar with it, the significance of it. But let's just say that it hasn't happened for 2,000 years, okay? It hasn't happened since the birth of Christ. So it's pretty significant. And we're in a bigger Capricorn period, which Capricorn is very indicative of change. My node is, my home is Capricorn. So as you can tell, I'm doing pretty well in the change. Change to me is like wonderful. Like we could change all day long. I'd be happy. But for most people, it's very unnerving. It's very difficult to deal with. So, but there's a lot of significance with the transitions. Spring equinox is very big, and so is the summer solstice. And the fact that we had 3 eclipses around it was really, really powerful. But guys, it's going to get hot next couple of months. Going to have some fun. Yep. All right, guys. I think that we're good for today. I'll see you soon. Take care, guys.